Today I'm going to be talking about sleep and tips for getting the best night's sleep possible. Hi everybody. Today I'm going to be talking about sleep and ways that you can improve your sleep to get the best night's sleep possible. But before I get into that, just a couple of disclaimers to go over. I'm a registered psychologist in British Columbia, Canada. And this video is for informational purposes only. It is not intended as a replacement or substitute for advice from your doctor or mental health professional. Now, if you're enjoying my videos and would like to see more, please hit that subscribe button down below and that notification bell, and you'll be alerted every Thursday when I post a new video. So with those things out of the way, let's start talking about sleep, which is one of those interesting topics where when you're getting enough of it, you don't think about it at all. But when you're not getting it, it's all you can think about. Now, sleep problems can occur for a variety of reasons, and they can look quite different in different people. So some people, for example, have difficulty falling asleep. So it can take hours to fall asleep. So I'm staring at the ceiling in my bed and just not able to fall asleep for whatever reason. For others, it's waking up throughout the night. So multiple times a night, I wake up and either I'm able to get back to sleep or it takes me a while to get back to sleep. But either way, my sleep is interrupted and I'm not getting a nice big chunk of sleep. And for others, it's difficulty staying asleep until the morning. So I wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning and I cannot get back to sleep. Even though I'm still tired, even though I haven't been refreshed from the sleep, I wake up and I can't fall asleep, and it's almost like my day is starting at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. So people can have either one or two or all three of these, and it can be very disruptive and very interfering. So what I want to talk about is some tools and some tips to try and improve your chances of getting to sleep. Now, this isn't going to be one of those five simple steps to getting the best night's sleep. If anyone is telling you that there are just 5 simple things that you can do to improve your sleep and to guarantee that you're going to get a good night's sleep, they're probably lying to you. If there were 5 simple steps to sleep, no one would be having any sleep problems. So it's important to understand that these tips that I'm going to be talking about are about giving you the best chance to fall asleep. They're not guaranteed to make you fall asleep. They're just improving the odds of getting a better night's sleep and improving your chances and environment to sleep better. So the first thing to understand about sleep is that our bodies kind of function on this 24-hour cycle. And so what you want to do is train your body when it's supposed to be asleep versus when it's supposed to be awake. And one of the best ways you can do this is to have a regular schedule for sleep. So what this means is try to go to bed around the same time every night. So one of the things I often see with people is they have different sleep times depending on the time of the week. So during the weekdays, they may go to bed at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and on weekends they're going to bed at midnight, 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, and then sleeping in. Well, what that's doing is that it's kind of confusing your body as to when you're supposed to be awake and when you're supposed to be asleep. So if you're having sleep difficulties, what you want to do is to try and keep your sleep schedule as regular as possible. Try to go to bed around the same time every night. Now, if you're having problems with sleep and you don't get to bed before 1 o'clock in the morning, don't try to go to sleep at 10 o'clock at night. because you're just probably going to lie there awake. So try and go to bed around the same time. And if you want to try and get more sleep, gradually over time, try to move that bedtime a little bit earlier, maybe in like 30-minute chunks at a time. So if you usually go to bed around 1 o'clock, try to go to bed around 12:30. And then once you're going to bed regularly around 12:30, try to move it to midnight. That sort of thing, to sort of gradually move that bedtime back a little bit. Another thing that you can do, and this is a little bit counterintuitive, but part of that setting up a regular sleep schedule is by setting up a regular wake-up time. So have a time that you wake up every morning and have it be the same time every morning. Now, one of the things that can happen is that if a person hasn't had a good night's sleep, what they do is, if their alarm goes off in the morning, they turn off the alarm, they hit the snooze button, and they try and get more sleep because they didn't sleep well at night. And it makes sense. You want to try and get as much sleep as you can. But if you're sleeping in and you're allowing yourself to sleep in, say, till 8 or 9 o'clock because you didn't get to bed until around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, well, what that's doing is, again, it's confusing your body. Are you supposed to be awake at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, or are you supposed to be asleep? So the idea is to have that set wake-up time that regardless how you slept the night, you're waking up at that same time in the morning, 6:30, 7 o'clock, whatever you're setting as that morning wake-up time, that you stick to it. Set an alarm and stick to it. I know it's tempting to want to try and get those extra hours of sleep, but that's just going to maintain the sleep difficulties and the confusion that your body has with regards to, should I be asleep or should I be awake? This also relates to napping. It's probably best not to nap during the day, because if you're napping during the day, you're again confusing your body. 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, am I supposed to be awake or am I supposed to be asleep? Because if I consistently nap at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it's disrupting that 24-hour cycle, and it's training my body that I should be asleep in the afternoon, but it thought I was supposed to be asleep at night. So it kind of changes that cycle and that routine that your body is used to. Now, what you'd like to do as part of this sort of sleep routine is to have kind of a bedtime routine. So a way of settling yourself down and a way of cueing your body that you're going to be getting ready to bed, or ready to go to bed. So what you don't want to do is kind of be on your phone watching videos or reading something, something really engaging, then turning off your phone and then trying to get to bed. Because you're going to be sort of stimulated and alert, and it's not going to be very easy to fall asleep. So what you can do is to try to have a routine or a schedule in that half hour to an hour before you want to go to bed, where you're just kind of settling yourself down. So this may be you turn off the electronics, and you maybe do some light reading, maybe do some relaxation, just something to sort of settle down. Turn down the lights, maybe put on some soft music, just as a way of cueing your body that I'm going to be going to sleep soon. And if you can have this routine on a consistent basis each night, it again will cue your body to get ready for sleep. And so that way, when you go to bed, you're more likely to fall asleep than if you've just been watching like an intense movie that's really sort of stimulating, and now you're going to try to go to sleep. Chances are you're not going to fall asleep that quickly. One of the things I will often see in people who are trying to improve their sleep or try to get a better night's sleep is that they'll use alcohol to try and fall asleep. So they'll have a drink or two to help them get to bed. Now, while alcohol may help relax you and help sort of settle you down to fall asleep, what it can do is it can disrupt your sleep cycle. And one of the things with alcohol as it gets metabolized is that it can actually stimulate a person. So you may be able to fall asleep by having a few drinks, but what you'll find is that a few hours later you'll be waking up and you're wide awake and have difficulty getting back to sleep. So while the alcohol may assist with helping fall asleep, it's not actually helping you get a better night's sleep. So one of the things I encourage is to avoid alcohol in terms of trying to get to bed. Another thing that you want to avoid, and this is pretty obvious, is try not to drink coffee too close to bedtime, because all that will really do is keep you awake, keep you alert. And so one of the things you want to do is try and avoid coffee after a certain point in the day, right? So you don't want to be drinking coffee after noon, because at that point the caffeine's still in your system and it's still something that is likely to keep you awake. Another thing is try not to exercise too close to bedtime. So exercise can be really good to help you fall asleep. It can help burn off a lot of energy to make you tired, to be able to sleep better in the evening. But you want to try to get that exercise done earlier in the day. If you're exercising late at night, right before you're trying to get to bed, all you're doing is kind of activating yourself, and that activation makes it really difficult to fall asleep. So these are things that you kind of want to avoid in that bedtime routine time. You don't want to be doing these things too close to when you're trying to fall asleep. You also want to ensure that your bedroom environment is associated and conducive with a good night's sleep. Nowadays, one of the challenges is we all have electronics, and all of those electronics seem to have some sort of notification lights or power lights, and so it's hard to get a bedroom to be completely dark. So to the best of your ability, try to turn off any of those ambient lights that are sort of adding light to the room, because it's much easier to fall asleep in a dark room than it is where you have a red light over here and a blue light over here and a flashing notification light here on your cell phone. So to the best of your ability, try to turn off those lights. If the light is always on, or it's just kind of a notification light that's always on, you can use like a little bit of black tape or some duct tape just to cover that light, just to reduce some of those ambient lights. You also want to ensure that you're associating your bedroom with sleep. Bedrooms have now become one of these sort of do-all rooms. So it's not uncommon for people to exercise in their bedroom or to do work in their bedroom. Problem is, if you're associating your bedroom with all of these sort of engaging activities, then what you're doing is you're making it more difficult for your body to realize that your bedroom is just there for sleep. So to the best of your ability, try to just limit what you do in your bedroom to be sleeping, because that helps you sort of associate that when you're in your bedroom, you're there to sleep. One of the keys is you want to associate your bed with being asleep, not sort of frustrated emotions or irritation or anger. And this is one of the things that I often see with people, is that they're lying in bed and they're just really frustrated that they can't fall asleep. And they're tossing and turning, and they're just getting more agitated and irritated because they're not falling asleep. So what that does is it associates the bed with irritability, frustration, and anger. those are not emotions that are particularly conducive to falling asleep. So one of the things I'll encourage people, and this again may seem a little bit counterintuitive, is to limit the amount of time that you're in bed not asleep. So if you go down to bed and you're trying to go to sleep and it's been maybe 10 or 15 or 20 minutes and you're not asleep yet, get out of bed. Go to the living room, do some meditation, try and do some light reading until you start feeling sleepy again. Then go back to your bed and try to go to sleep. If you're not able to fall asleep again after 20 minutes, get out of bed, go back to the living room, and try and settle yourself down until you feel sleepy again and try it again. Because the idea is you want to limit how much time you are spending in bed not asleep. I would much rather that you be sort of irritated and frustrated about not being asleep in your living room than being irritated and frustrated with not being asleep in your bedroom. So you want to maximize the ratio of sleep to time that you spend in bed. Now, related to this, one tip I often encourage people to do is to take your alarm clock or take your phone and turn it away from you so you don't know what time it is at night. So make sure you have an alarm set so you wake up at the right time. But there's no point for you to know what time it is in the middle of the night if you wake up, because all that will do is probably contribute to your frustration. So you may have had this experience where you go to bed and you fall asleep and then you wake up at some point in the night and you look at the clock and you realize that you've only been asleep for an hour, and now you start getting frustrated by I've only been asleep for an hour, this night is going to go badly, I'm not going to get a good night's sleep, and you just start getting frustrated and you just start working yourself up, which isn't conducive to sleep. You don't need to know what time it is in the middle of the night. All you need to know is that you've got an alarm that's going to go off when it's time to go to bed. So if you don't see the alarm clock, if you don't see the time on your phone, it's hard to gauge how much time has actually passed since you fell asleep and woke up. And so it's a lot easier to just fall back asleep at that point than if you're staring at the clock and getting frustrated because you're just seeing the time tick by and you're not able to fall asleep. So that's a trick that I find that for a lot of people can be really helpful. Just don't have a clock that you can see while you're in bed trying to sleep. Another thing to watch out for is how much thought or effort you're putting into falling asleep. One of the worst things you can do is to be trying really hard to fall asleep. It's almost like the harder you try to fall asleep, the less likely you are to actually be able to fall asleep. And so this is kind of counterintuitive, right? Like you really want to sleep, but the more you force it, the worse it gets. And so one of the things to think about is, why is it that you're so anxious or concerned about sleep? A lot of people can have beliefs about sleep that contribute to their frustration or their difficulty falling asleep. So beliefs like, if I don't get a good night's sleep tonight, I'm not going to be functional, or something bad is going to happen. I'm not going to be able to get things done. Well, what we know is that people can function pretty well or reasonably well without getting a full 8 hours night's sleep or a really good night's sleep. Now, obviously, people function better when they're sleeping well, but it's not like you're completely non-functional if you haven't slept well. And we call this catastrophizing. It's making a catastrophe about not being able to fall asleep. Again, it's not ideal if you're not getting a good night's sleep, but it's not the end of the world. And the bigger deal you make about trying to get to sleep or having to get to sleep, the more difficult it is going to be to actually fall asleep. So it's about kind of changing the attitude or the dialogue that you have in your mind about how important it is to fall asleep. Yeah, it would be great if I can get a good night's sleep tonight, but I haven't been sleeping well for a while and I function okay. I'm able to get some things done. It's not the end of the world if I don't have a good night's sleep tonight. So it's about making it less of a big deal and putting less weight on the importance of falling asleep tonight, because the greater weight I put on falling asleep, the harder it's going to be for me to actually fall asleep. And the last thing to point out about sleep is that sleep difficulties can often be a function and often be a symptom of underlying psychological conditions. So we know that for things like major depressive disorder or generalized anxiety disorder or post-traumatic stress disorder, difficulties with sleep are part of these conditions. And so if you have one of these conditions, or if you have psychological problems like anxiety or depression that are interfering with sleep, one of the things you should really be focusing on to get a better night's sleep is to address those underlying conditions. So if excessive worry is contributing to your sleep difficulties, doing these sleep hygiene techniques that I'm talking about probably isn't going to be entirely successful in terms of helping you get to sleep. What you need to do is get at that underlying problem, which is the excessive worry, and learn ways of better managing that worry so it's not interfering with your sleep. And I've got a series of videos on worry management that you can watch to try and help get at that underlying worry that may be contributing to sleep difficulties. So I hope some of those tips are helpful to try and give you the best chance for getting a better night's sleep. There's no silver bullet or magic solution here to guarantee that you're going to get a perfect night's sleep. All you can really do is give yourself the best opportunity to fall asleep, and your body will sleep when it's going to sleep. All you can do is give yourself the best shot at the best night's sleep possible. So I hope you find those skills helpful. I would love to hear your thoughts and comments and ideas about maybe some things that have worked for you. So please leave me some comments in the comments section down below. Thank you for making it all the way to the end of this video, and I will see you in the next one.